Welcome back to Real Community Talks, where we meet with micro-level influencers doing macro-level things. I'm your host, Matt DeSilva, and on today's episode, we have the queen of community advocacy, someone who I really respect who's done a lot in Malton, my good friend Crystal Mark on the show. Crystal, thanks for coming out today.
Thank you, Matt. What a compliment.
So for those two-ways people that don't know who Crystal is, and if you don't, I don't know how, you're a Malton person. Crystal is currently one of the co-founders and the executive director of Moulton Moms, which empowers local moms in a variety of ways. I'll let her get into that a little later. She is a manager of diversity, equity, and inclusion of Catholic Children's Aid in, I believe, Hamilton. She's a writer and published author with several books releasing next year. Was an employment advisor / advocate with Jewish Vocational Services, was a chief writer, consultant, and advocate with Everyday Advocacy, was a women's counselor for Malton Neighborhood Services, was a community developer with BCHC, Bramley Community Health Center, has an honors Bachelor in Sociology and Caribbean Studies from York University. This is just going to be way too long. Has a master's of social work from the University of Windsor, has sat on multiple community boards, events, committees, and among many other things, she is a poet, an activist, a public speaker, an equity expert / consultant, a community connector, a program facilitator, and someone who specializes in anti-racism and advocacy. Did I miss anything?
Wow. I'm a mother of 4.
Yes, awesome.
A married mother of 4, and I'm actually in the middle of my master's, so I haven't completed.
Okay.
That's just important.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I mean, one more thing, and I'm like, I don't know how you fit this on a resume. You just have to be decisive now.
Yeah, I do, but I really appreciate that. I'm like, where did he get all this info?
I do my research.
Yes, I see.
So before we get into the questions, I was so amped when I seen you're a fellow Bob's Burgers fan.
I am.
So who's your favorite character and why?
I think, it's a real toss-up. Oh, God. Louise.
Yes.
Of course. Linda, because I think I'm that quirky mom that it's like, okay, be quiet, mom. And then Bob, because he seems like the only voice of reason.
It's so true.
It's so true. And then I love Tina because Tina reminds me of all the awkward people in life that I know.
I know.
So it's really hard. But I love that. I love that show.
I know.
It's a little too much. I love that.
I know. It's like, I don't know what season I'm on. There's so many episodes, but there's some where it's like you get like a lull in some of the seasons, but it's like every episode's new and fresh and funny and hilarious. It's one of those shows where you can see like everyone in your family and someone multiple times, right?
And you know what? It's funny because I've always loved cartoons. Like I think my mom when we were kids would sit with us and watch cartoons, and then The Simpsons came out, right?
Yes.
So I was a diehard Simpsons fan, right? And then I can't remember, Dr. Katz came out, and then but then Bob's Burgers really hit a note with me, and I was like, I love this show.
Yeah.
So I'm in, a family trying to make it in their burger restaurant.
I know.
While their 3 children are completely different. The youngest is, acts like she's the oldest,
yes.
and they're in a town full of quirks and kooks. It's our lives.
It's an amazing show. I know. When I was a The Office fan, and I needed something to kind of like carry me over.
Yes.
So this is like being like in that lull of like now leaving my full-time job and having some time off. It's kept me going. So.
Absolutely. And that mild sort of sarcasm that exists that isn't painful or rude.
Yeah,
but
true.
that is just
true.
A little self-deprecating. The Office had it. Simpsons had it.
Yeah.
And certainly Bob's Burgers has it.
For
I love that show. I'm gonna go home and watch it after.
I know,
this.
it's so true. So with that, why don't we segue into what's your origin story? So who is Crystal Mark and where are you from?
Wow, that's such a big question. What's your origin story? Okay, so, well, I obviously should credit my parents. My parents, Sally and Lamuel, are immigrants from Grenada. They actually met, it's a wonderful story. They met as bridesmaid and groomsmen at a wedding.
Oh, wow.
That was in Malton at the community center.
Okay.
But at the time, they lived in Toronto, and like Bathurst and Regent Park, those were the places where a lot of Black people were living and hung out. So we lived for a little bit down there. We lived Danforth and Jones area. And then eventually my parents, I guess, suburbia opened up, and my parents decided to move us, and it was just me at the time. I'm the eldest, and when they moved there, they realized that oh my God, this is the place where we met. So it all seemed like kismet, and it was a really nice, coming together story. How I became to be the person I am is, through a lot of, unfortunately, through a lot of hardship and struggle. But I wouldn't say that I wasn't blessed. I was, very privileged. My parents encouraged reading at a young age. I was
awesome.
reading from 2 or 3. I've always been chatty, talky, verbose, whatever you want to call it. And, my parents really encouraged me that whatever I wanted in life, I could have. So, as I got other siblings, I was really instilled with the, you're the eldest and you're the role model.
Yeah.
So I carry that mantle sort of with me everywhere I go. So people call it bossy, but but I'm just trying to make sure that everyone's doing okay.
That's amazing. Yeah. So you mentioned that your roots are very much locked inside Malton's borders. So in what ways did Malton shape you into the person you are today? Well,
growing up, the thing is when you're growing up and you're just in a neighborhood, like now people are very like this is my town and da 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 da. But it was just this place. Its streets were safe. You could go and ride your bike. At the time, there wasn't a lot of multicultural diversity.
Yeah.
I was maybe 4 of Black children in the schools.
Oh, wow.
And every other ethnicity was maybe Italian or, what the Italians love to call manjicate. And, but then it shifted a little bit and more Caribbean people came in, more South Asian people came in, and the neighborhood diversified. And so in that, you're going to high school, you're making new friends, you're exploring culture. You don't even realize it. Like over my life, I've learned a little bit of Mandarin, Italian, a little bit of Hebrew, a little bit of Japanese.
Oh my gosh.
Let me see what else. Well, obviously French in the school system, but it's just, and I do not profess to speak these well, but it's Portuguese as well.
Wow.
And you learn how to connect, and I don't know, I really love that connection piece. And as a writer, I became a writer very young. Like I knew that was my strength, and I was encouraged to do that a lot by teachers, by my parents, and so I used that as a vehicle to sort of tell stories and get out there.
Yeah. So speaking of Malton, in 2007, like I mentioned, you co-founded it's a nonprofit organization, Moulton Moms. So why did you decide to start it, and what purpose does it serve for the community?
Okay, so that's a great question, because after going to university, I went to York, and then living for a little bit in Danforth, where I said we had some family connection. And we were at Keele Street for a while too. We call Keele Street the good old days. But when I came back to Malton, I had 3 children, and I didn't know I had one on the way.
Okay.
And my mom was like, let me give you some more support. You need to be around family. And that was really good. And I came back though, and I was like, nothing's changed. Like I had worked for City of Toronto for a bit. I had worked with York University, and everything seemed to be moving forward. But then I came back and I'm like, nothing's changed in Malton. And I really frustrated me. And then in addition to that, I had lots of friends who were mothers, but I didn't have any mom friends. So I wanted friends who I could talk to about parenting.
Wow, yeah.
So that I could, I knew I was doing it right, but it helps when you have someone with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? So I found out I was pregnant with my son, and it was a high-risk pregnancy, but at the time I did not know. And I started going to a Regent of Peel prenatal support group.
Yeah.
And there I met some really amazing moms, most of whom were Black, but we had Indigenous women there.
Wow.
We had African women there, like Ghanaian, Nigerian.
Wow.
And then we even had and we had some Polish women there. And I thought, this is a good group and we shouldn't just let it die because the program's over.
Wow, yeah.
So I made a suggestion, and it was at the beginning of the times of Facebook. So we all had these, what we would call ancient cell phones now.
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, so let's meet up at the splash pad at Thursday at 3:00 or something, and, tell your friends. And we thought to ourselves, okay, maybe with all of us, there'll be 10 of us and maybe 20 kids. Well, we showed up and there was 70 kids and 30 moms. And it was like, holy crow, it was really amazing. Yeah. So we decided to develop the group based on connections in the community, creativity, and then community, just finding ways to support each other.
Yeah. And
the group just had its 10-year anniversary. We're almost on to 12 now.
Congrats.
And thank you. And we haven't been fully funded. We've done a lot. Like when I say we're really grassroots, and that's because we haven't been wanting to take large sums of money with strings attached, right? Yeah. We didn't want to become the project for someone else's work to go through. Yeah. But we did receive funding from United Way of Peel and Peel Region to do a creative cafe. And I have to say that that's one of our most lasting and great engagements, where we had people come in. The kids and the moms would separate. And also, by the way, there was dads and uncles and grandpas too. And we'd work on activities like photography, like this, what we're doing, audio and video recording, writing, because I'm a writer. Like some of us would use our own talents to teach the workshop. And then the kids would do the same thing. And then we'd come back together, share a meal, and then talk. And it was a really amazing experience. Yeah. And it really solidified my sense and other people's sense of community.
Yeah, that's amazing, because I think people have this whack notion that if you're a mom that you can't have purpose in that season, and you have so much time. Like let's say you're working, you're taking mat leave, or let's say you don't have a job, but your focus is your child. In between you have multiple opportunities just to grow and to learn something. I know a dope female who works actually for CET, and she had her kid and she took time off work, but she developed her own entrepreneurial business through that, where she doesn't need the job at CET, but she's just doing that because she loves serving the community. So I'm like, you have that moment to capitalize, and organizations like Moulton Moms are enabled to equip women to just find their skill sets in that season, right?
That's true. And we're still, as much as we're 10 years old, if you think about it in the development of a child, for example, we're still young. Yeah. There's a big future for us. And we are a really solid group of women, and we are encouraging women. Even though we're bordered by Malton, we have moms who are in Markham, we have moms in Scarborough, moms in Brampton. If we meet a mom and we tell them about their group and they're interested, they can jump on our Facebook group. Yeah. We have more than 500 people there. Wow. And we talk about issues. And then sometimes we bring out our issues to the real community. We've had talks about what an IEP is, like an individual education plan, how to become more involved in your school, how everyday advocacy, how to advocate for yourself, what to do, if your landlord terminates your lease, how to buy your first home. Do you want to buy a home? Wow. How do you want to invest your money? What do you want to do? What do you want to be when you grow up, right? Yeah. All of those amazing things we have had in those circles. Yeah. And we've branched off. We have had stuff called sacred circles, where we do, meditation, prayer, and just relaxing and calming. And then we've had very exciting things like Zumba and soca size. So we try to look at what do the women want, and then we move from there.
That's amazing.
And one thing I wanted to also mention, because of the dads that were so interested, including my husband, because he supported so much of it, we operated a branch called, we have an offshoot branch called Dedicated. So it's hashtag dedicated, and it's like a play on the word dedicated.
Yeah.
So we talk to dads, and because my husband's a barber, we sit down, they barber a bunch of kids' hair, and they talk about topics that maybe only men think of.
Wow.
So that was something that we never thought would exist, and now it's part of it's like an offshoot of what we do. So we've come a long way, but there's still more to grow. There's been times where I'm like, let's wrap it up, and then I'm like, no, it's too good a thing. It serves the community really well, and no matter where I go, it's something I want to continue doing.
Yeah, because we were talking about that earlier in terms of like looking at numbers and evaluating your impact based on numbers. And the thing is, I kind of take the opinion. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like sometimes you'll just know when something there's an end to something. But it's so hard for me to drop off something when I know even if one person, even if 10 people, are benefiting from it, it's still worth it. And that's the thing is sometimes people focus on like the 10,000, but it's like, well, what are you doing with those 10 to develop locally and grow intimately that'll sustain you at that 10,000?
Well,
right?
it's true. And if let's just use a parable for example, right? When the Sermon on the Mount happened, right? There was like all these people on the mountain ready to hear the Lord talk, right? And there was 2 fishes and some loaves. If we looked at the 2 fishes and loaves, we'd all go home. And then there would have nothing happened.
Yeah.
But if you think about what you have and how you can multiply it, then you could do really amazing things. And I'm sort of like a non-giver-upper. So I totally think, okay, let's reinvest. And there's no knock to our political system or our infrastructure, but community building and community development is not something that you can sort of legislate or create in a building. I did run for office once, but its purpose was to bring the issues that Malton needed to the forefront of the discussion, and then also to get the money that we need pushed in the areas that we need it.
For sure.
And that's why, if anything, politics is important and important for people to engage in, because your voice equals your share of money, your share of power, your share of your voice out there. So,
that's amazing. So when I was doing my research, I seen an article that you wrote in reference to Moulton Moms, and it said, I looked for a tribe and found none, so I created my own. And I think that's powerful because oftentimes people like to rely exactly what we said on existing structures, but you had the courage to create your own. And sometimes I kind of struggle with this because as advocates and community developers, we're always creating and doing and starting. And sometimes I'm just like, I just want to go to something where I don't have to start it and I could just belong, right?
Can I tell you, I know that so well. Yeah. I know that so well. Like right now, I'm living part-time in Malton, part-time in Hamilton. And when I'm in Hamilton, it's like that. Like I don't have to try for anything. There's a lot of grassroots stuff. Yeah. I just go to stuff but you know what? If it's in you sometimes, you're like, that parking lot's underdeveloped. And or I wonder what they're going to do with that school now that they've closed it. It's just something that's in you, and I think it's a very entrepreneurial spirit. But you are correct in that you have to also remember to step back and let other people lead. Yeah. And that has been something I've done, which is why Moulton Moms isn't just me. It's myself, Kamar Cameron, and Nadine Ruby. We sort of run the group, but people like Alexandra, people like God, I'm gonna get upset because I'm gonna miss somebody, but people like Melinda, Alma, people like that, they always are there to support and give support. Like Kalisha and Savette, they were instrumental in like helping me write the grant to start the, so, it really does take a village. It takes a few people who do get behind you, and there's a bit of trust that you have to have for that, right? For sure. When people have their little idea, their little baby, they don't want to really show it to the world, but you have to take that risk because it will change so much.
So let's talk about your position with Children's Aid. So how did that opportunity come about, and why did you decide to pursue it?
Okay, that's a good and big question. I like we shared with you personally, I went through a lot of journey with my mother and my grandmother. They both came down with a very difficult disease, and I spent about 2 or 3 years taking care of them. And there came a time where I was just like, I need a break, and I need, like, there's something called caregiver burnout. And those of us who do, for a lot of people, we sometimes experience that and don't even recognize it. And I wanted to change, but I wasn't sure what it was. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm also very external. But when I want to know something that I don't understand, I go internal. I get real quiet. And so if you don't hear from me in a while, kind of know that I'm like focusing and dealing on stuff. And so I saw this wonderful, like, I have a friend who for years has been like, come to Hamilton. And I'm like, Michelle, Hamilton is like on Mars. Like, I'm not coming, right? And I never even visited, and it was just weird. But then something happened in her life, and she invited me over at the same time that I needed a bit of a break. So we connected, and she's a dear friend of mine. Over 20 years we've been friends. And she has 2 small kids now, and I adore children. It doesn't matter, how many I have or how old mine are getting. I love small children. So I spent a few days with her, and I saw a job ad. I applied, and right away they wanted to see me. And it was for the opening of the Hamilton Anti-Racist Center, and it's the first kind in the country. And it was a place to come and document incidents of racism. And Hamilton has a high number of incidents of overt racism.
Really?
Yeah, apparently. And so, I came, I did an amazing presentation, and, they were courting me, and I pretty much thought I had the job. And then I didn't hear nothing for a while. And I was like, okay, let me apply to this other position that sounds similar at Children's Aid and see what happens. So, one of the ladies on the selection committee said to me, you should try, like, we're not going to hire you. We think you're wonderful, but you should try this job over there. And I said to her, I already applied over there. They didn't call me or whatever. And she said, really? So she said, let me get back to you. And she called. I don't know what happened, but, they gave me an interview, and it was like we were meant to be together. Wow. We just, like, the interviews went so well. And I went from a very depressed place to a very uplifted place. And it was almost like it was too good to be true. Like, you felt like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? But then in my spirit, I was like, no, trust that this is the right thing for you and your family. So, my husband and I are very close. And so I said, would you support me in a job in Hamilton? And what if we wanted to move out there? And then he said, okay, well, why don't we try living between cities and commuting for a while? But yes, I'm 100% behind you. And, he's awesome. Wonderful, supportive person. And I think that's, what good spouses are supposed to do, right? You get behind your partner's dreams, right? And then the kids were all at ages where an interruption wouldn't, like a move or anything, wouldn't harm them too much. And so we decided to go for it. And honestly, doing this job has been an amazing gift. That's because awesome. It's allowed me to take all of the years of consulting, advocacy, working with organizations, writing, thinking, developing, and putting it into a day-to-day job where I'm influencing the outcomes of how children and families are treated, and how they're supported, and how they're even reunited through the child welfare system. So, it's not all me, of course. I work with a very large team, but I get to play a little bit of a part in training, in making sure our policy is sound. It's anti-racist. It has critical perspectives of what it means for Indigenous people, and it's about working that system to change it, while, like, some people think about like changing the system from within. Yes, but I think of it more as like putting B12 in the bloodstream. Like it's waking up that system. It's giving it life. It's saying, okay, you know what? You've done things this way, but how about we do things this way? And have you thought about your practice this way? So I do workshops, but also I bring in consultants and people who teach, and then we look at policy, and it all sounds pretty boring when I start to talk about policy, but these are having real impacts on people's lives, and this agency is unique because I didn't think I'd have to go to Hamilton to see people who were moving forward in anti-racism, anti-homophobia, all of these things. But here we are. They're a leading agency, and I think that with me doing this work, we can even go further.
Yeah, and I love how your experiences and even your personal life have been a culmination to even this job that you have now. And I feel like the best jobs are the ones where your lived experience can be at play and work in your everyday.
Absolutely, because if I had gone, I got my bachelor's degree, and I had done all these extra, I spent another year doing all these extra certificates because a master's in social justice, which they have now, didn't exist back then, right? And I'm not that old, but things change, and now you have social service worker degree, you have social worker degree, bachelor, master of this, you can do equity studies, you can do indigenous studies. These things weren't possible in 2001, and that was only just a while ago. So you're right, bringing my lived experience, bringing all that there, that was really valued by them, and I appreciate that they saw that. So I don't want to get obviously too topical because it's your place of work, right?
But there's that kind of stigma about CAS, that it's we're gonna take away your kids, and it's something scary, but people don't realize that it's founded on advocacy for children. And it's like when you tell a kid when they're young, if you don't eat your vegetables, the police are gonna come arrest you, and then kids at that young age fear police, right? So how can we shift that stigma towards the latter?
I'm so glad you asked me that question, because when I told my sister I took a job at CAS, she lost her mind, right? She was like, what? And I was like, no, listen. First of all, we don't house children in the building. People think that we do. We don't. What we do is apprehension, or what we call it creating a place of permanent safety. Taking a child from their home is the last resort. We actually work with families. When you get somebody might give you a call, give us a call, and then we go to them, and then we have a visit. We check out things. And then that's where intuition and knowledge about the social worker, and again, the skills about anti-racism and advocacy. You don't just assume that because these people are from this place that they're going to have these problems and all of that kind of stuff. That's the first part. We visit. Then we come in with a follow-up visit. If things are fine, we close the file. If they need support, we give them that support. And we spend a lot of our dollars in providing support to families. It's only in that rare case, and there are a few, I'm not going to lie, where the child is in harm's way, and we need to provide another place of safety. And what we need actually today are more places of safety in African, Canadian, Black, and Indigenous homes, because we want to also honor children's cultural and spiritual heritages, and not just stick them with families who don't understand who they are. So there are times that will happen, but it's our last resort. And we often get together at a planning table to see, okay, so what are we going to do? And it's not just somebody's, it used probably in the back in the days, it was one person's unilateral decision, but now it's it's an equitable collective decision to decide what to do with this family. And for the betterment, we involve families. We have
Yeah.
what's called a family conference. And that doesn't just mean family. Like it could be the neighbor. It could be, the librarian that they know really well. It could be like, it's really wholesome and fulsome. And then people offer suggestions, and then we try to come up with a plan that works for the child.
That's amazing.
It is, and it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's one of our touching moments.
It kind of it kind of reminds me of indigenous circles where like they involve the community and healing and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
I think
we've learned that.
I think I'm rest assured to know like someone like you who's a mom and who's a great mom and knows the different sides of things. Is there advocating for those families?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and people have come to me and said, we think we might have. We think this file might go awry. Can we take a look at it? And I say, yeah, let's take a look. And I offer, but I'm not the only one. With the better I offer skills and information to the agency, the more equipped people are to make those decisions and bring sort of an anti-biased approach to it.
So in your prelim, you said I'm a writer first, and I'm a poet second, and I'm a revolutionary always. And how you only have one life, and that how you plan to make your mark, or as you say, make my mark. So talk more about making your mark and what you're passionate about doing in this lifetime.
Well, yes, if I could do anything, like let's say, Lotto 649 hits and whatever. I don't play the lottery though, but anyway, I would want to write all the stories that I have within me, and there are a lot. The thing about the writer is, and I think about Hemingway. He said, write drunk, edit sober. But he also said that, like, I think he also said that we writers run from the page. I do, and it's because there's a lot to unpack and deal with, right? But when you do, it's so freeing. And so I'm really committed. I've had a lot of interruptions, let's say. Life Gets in the Way is one of the titles of one of my short stories. But I want to, at my age now, not that age is a factor, but I want to give myself enough credit to try to do those things now, because I'm important too, right? You take care of the community, you do a lot for a while, but then also you have to remember to take care of yourself. And part of that, and I've always known my story is to write.
Wow. That's
I've
amazing.
always known that. It's just something. And so everyone has a gift, and sometimes it takes people a long time to figure it out, but mine is this. And I worry because do people even read anymore? But that's not the point. The point is I need to write those stories. I feel like, the ancient cave people, our ancestors, they wrote down scrolls and things. And that's how I feel like that's how I'll know that I made my mark in this world, is that I left something, a legacy of something for people to read. And it might not be, terribly significant, but it's my story, and I want to leave it. So
I love that, because not that you don't have purpose or passion in your 9 to 5, but a lot of people put their whole focus on being passionate and purposeful in their 9 to 5. But for me, I'm the kind of person where my 9 to 5 is kind of funding my passion, and I'm not getting paid from this podcast, but I love doing it because I get to speak into people's life. I get to put them on a platform, because CP24 isn't following you around, but you're doing amazing stuff, Crystal. And not everyone is always posting on IG where everyone's able, like, if it's not on Instagram, it's like it's not news these days, but you're doing great things. But another thing too about that is you write also for yourself. It's therapeutic, and a lot of times people think purpose and passion is to benefit someone, but we forget to benefit ourselves and to build ourselves and to grow ourselves. And I love that, because even when I write, like, there's some stuff that I write or that I do that I may never, or even create, like I like creating these funny videos, whatever, I may never release, but that was so enjoyable and fun for me, and it helped me. And take some time to do stuff for yourself, right?
It's absolutely true. And there's this joy, this passion that comes from doing that. And even if, I like to think of God as this tapestry weaver, and he throws these threads in, so you don't know what color they'll be, what stitch will come, and it connects things. So you never know. That little funny video you did that you think no one saw, maybe it sparks an idea later, right?
Wow, yeah.
And it's like you just got to do it, and you got to have belief in what you do, even when you go to the paper and it's like, I don't like that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. But you just, it's so important because like I live and breathe, and you're right. My 9 to 5, I learned really hard right around when I was 30. As much as I love community advocacy, when people employ you to do it, it's not going to be all of who you are, right? And you need to be also able, when everything's gone and stripped away, who are you? What do you stand for? And that's what I learned. So that's why I always say I'm a writer and a poet. After, I don't know, 5 years or so, I did some poetry just the other night. And I never knew I was going to do it. But it infused me, and it reminded me that, you know, you have all these words that you want to share. And, you know, I worry about like, oh my God, where am I going to find a publisher? Like I'm dead serious when I tell you that some of my writing has been halted because I'm like, who's going to publish me?
Yeah.
But we live in a world of self-publishing. We live in a world of online. We live in a world of all this type of things. And it's like, you know, why worry about that? Someone that you and I both know, Preeti Alwani.
Yeah.
Okay. Preeti goes, that's someone else's job. She goes like this, and she's very wise. She doesn't, you know, get her on the show. She underestimates how wise she is. But she said to me, you know, the packaging, the marketing, the selling of your book, that's someone else's job. Your job is to write it.
Wow.
And when she said that, a big light bulb went off for me.
That's big. I'm just like, wow, I'm trying to process that.
Yeah.
That's so true. So one thing I love about your family is how involved you guys are, not just individually, like your kids are doing amazing things in their schools, but how you guys give back together as a unit. So why was getting your kids involved in the community at an early age so important to you?
It's hard to answer that question because that's what I think having a tribe is for, right? Like I know, like I'm a Christian, but I'm also a Rasta, and I follow a lot of indigenous teachings as well, the 7 grandfather teachings, and I don't know, I just, of having a family means you've made a choice to bring people into the world. You're their spiritual guide, and you're responsible for them. And at the end of life, God is going to ask you, what did you do? Did you invest in them? Did you help them? And then service to others is very important. And so it was natural. It wasn't a choice. And then I think that all the things I was getting involved in, I brought my children along. And, you know, my husband's very quiet individual, but his mother also is very activist, and she does work in Malton through Malton Black Development Association. And, you know, I give her a lot of credit because my husband understands the importance of becoming involved in community. And you don't have to be a big mouth to be involved in community, right? You can be part of the background. You can be quiet, you know, and all of those things. And we just wanted the kids to see what was going on, what was important, the poetry readings, the, you know, the community events, the dances, the this, the that, all of that, you know, going to your library and just exploring. All of that is about living in a community, especially when we live in what's called a bedroom community, right? Where people just sort of go to work, come back to the suburbs, they sleep. We want like more life than that, right? But we can't, the city, for whatever reasons, it's too expensive, it's too far, it's whatever. But we have the right to sort of get out there. So involving my children in that work was just a natural extension of the way I am.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it wasn't on purpose.
Yeah. So one of your favorite quotes is, "Be still and know that I am God." So what does that quote mean to you personally?
Well, like I said earlier, I'm a very extroverted person. I externally process. I think things out loud, sometimes to the annoyance of others. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
I ask a lot of questions. Some people think it's nosy, but I'm actually just generally trying to figure out the world that I live in. But one thing I've learned is when I'm unsure about things, being still, getting quiet with you, that God that's inside you, that peace will direct you.
Wow.
You might not always know how or why. It's not like you get quiet and you'll just get the answers, but God directs you. He supports you, and he wants you to win. He set you up in this life to win. And that's why I believe there's always a turnaround.
Yeah.
You just got to decide when it's going to happen, right? And so when you're seeking, and we're all bad at this, like, we pray, we get what we want, and then we forget about God for a bit, right? We pray, we get into trouble, we get what we want, you know what I mean? And I too struggle about that a lot as well. And what happens is, I noticed that if you're in the busyness, the chaos, right? Even if you don't have plans, like in my life, the days that I don't have plans are still full with plans, right? And there's all these options to do, especially being a mother. How do you entertain the children? How do you keep them engaged? How do you do a craft or this or that, or whatever? And you can forget about the time that is important for you. And so be still and know that I am God means that no matter what happens, God is going to be there for you no matter what. He is the one thing you can trust, that sovereign entity that you are literally made of, like the flesh. He rests in you. And if you get quiet, that thing that we call intuition will guide you. And so there are many beautiful quotes out there, but I think that one, like when you asked me that was what first came up. Yeah.
If you could go back in time, what would you tell grade 9 Crystal just about to enter high school? If you can give her a warning, get in a DeLorean, what's one thing you would tell her?
DeLorean. Yeah. I would tell grade 9 Crystal to own herself, that her body belongs to her.
Wow.
That she doesn't have to fight to exist, and that everything will work itself out. That's and awesome. It'll be okay.
Yeah. All right, so we reached that point in the episode where it's rapid fire. So the first thing that comes to your head, you ready?
Yeah.
Pepsi or Coke?
Neither.
Advil or Tylenol?
Advil.
Apple or Android?
Android.
Toronto or Saga?
Oh. Toronto. Sorry, if you had said Mississauga or Malton, then you know what I would say. Yeah.
Favorite author of all time?
I would say, oh shit. So I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
No. Bell hooks.
Okay. Favorite poet of all time?
Audre Lorde.
What song, when played, makes you ton up uncontrollably?
Oh man. Rob Bass. It Takes Two.
All right.
Yeah.
Favorite place you've traveled, local or international?
Trinidad.
Favorite book you read or are reading right now?
I'm reading Women Who Run with Wolves, and I think it's amazing.
Favorite song that you're listening to right now?
All the stars are closer.
Yeah.
From Kendrick. I love Kendrick.
Who is one person that if you could recommend everyone go right now and follow online on social media or check them out?
I would say Brene Brown. And I have a follow-up to that because she teaches about shame, which is the opposite of like praise and joy. And I learned so much about the pain that we hide that if we learn to accept it, that we can grow further.
All right. So I know this isn't more of a long answer, but if you could if you could boil it down to one thing, what's one advice you'd give to a new mom?
I would say that you've got it. Everything, the fact that you brought this child to the world means that you have everything within you. You have a universe within you of knowledge, of wisdom, to do right by this child. Your job is to guide them, and you've got this.
Wow. Caribbean Star or Mr. Jerk?
Oh, I don't want to talk bad about certain people.
That's what everyone keeps saying.
Oh my God, Mr. Jerk's customer service is horrible, but their food is great, and I haven't been to Caribbean Star.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you can say one person, obviously there might be multiple, but the first person that comes to your head when I say most influential person on your life.
It's a toss-up between my mother and my husband.
I like that.
Yeah.
If you could go back to a single point in your life, if you could revisit that day, for one more time, what day would that be?
It's hard. I have 4 children, and so
Each of their births.
births.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there was a movie on your life, what would the title read? And then I'm gonna ask a follow-up.
Truth, passion, and integrity.
And if they couldn't get you to play you, it doesn't have to be a lookalike, but what actor would you want to play yourself?
There's so many beautiful, talented Black women right now in acting. Yeah, Issa Rae. I think I'm gonna settle on Issa. Yeah.
If you could have coffee or whatever your drink of choice is with anyone from any point in history, dead or alive, just to pick their brain, who would it be?
It would be wine with Jesus. Yeah.
Facts. If you could be any animal, what would you be?
Puma. Black, strong, swift.
Puma.
Yeah.
If you were stranded on a desert island, what 2 things would you want with you?
A notebook and a pencil.
Name a song that when you hear it, it puts you in your feelings.
Gladys Knight, Midnight Train to Georgia.
Okay.
I love that song since I was a kid. Yeah.
What style did you rock that you look back now and wish you never rocked?
I don't think I ever made a bad fashion choice in my life.
Really? Okay.
I'm confident on my record. Yeah.
Favorite food of all time?
I love brie and salmon. I know,
okay.
not culturally relevant for us, but that's my favorite food.
What job would you be horrible at?
Oh, how do you call this? Like the people who work on a conveyor belt.
Yeah.
I would ruin the whole. Assembly. I would ruin the whole assembly line.
When you die, when people remember you, what would you want the biggest legacy that you leave behind to be? Like when they say, they remember Crystal Mark, what would you want them to say about you?
That I was kind. That I loved everyone. And that I really did believe that we are all one.
So lastly, if your life was a book, so beyond the title of that book, but this chapter of your life right now, if you could put a title to it, what would you title it?
Where I am right now? Well, I'm actually working on a book, and that's it's called Tallulah. Tallulah is an expression. It's a Jamaican expression. It's like she's little, but she's Tallulah. So it's stories of triumph, truth, and trial. So that's what I call it.
All right, so you survived rapid fire. It's now guest corner, so you can shout out anything you want, shout out people. Any last word you want to say to our listeners and viewers, the mic is yours.
Okay, so I'd love to promote a video that I did, an article I did with cbc.ca for the Herstory in Black project. Sort of envisioned by my friend Emily Mills. I wrote a great article about Indigenous and Black solidarity, which I think is very important in this time in history. And then I'd love it to shout out my following girls, Kamar, Nadine, Savat, Kalisha, my best friend in the world, Tiffany, my sister. And then I'd also love to shout out Kevin, Sable, Sojourn, Shalom, and Sovereign, my family.
Your kids' names are awesome, by the way.
Thank you. It's the poet in me.
All right, so that wraps it up for our show today, and I'm gonna leave links to everything that Crystal has going on and anything she referred to in the description. But before we go, one thing I like to do on my episode is give you guys a word of encouragement, because you're busy people, you're dominating what you're doing, you're changing the world, but sometimes you don't slow down to hear it from other people. So one thing I want to start with is your authenticity and ability to be who you are. Like, you'll assess things for how they are and not shy away from challenging, like systems of oppression, or you won't be like, shy to say things that most people want to say, but they're too worried about their reputation to say. So I love how you're able to challenge things that people need you to be like the voice of. Secondly, your advocacy and support you provided to not just Moulton Moms, but I think families and individuals in multiple communities. I think like you in not being in a community is a deficit. So I think a lot of people are benefiting from the work that you've done. I think as a mother yourself, you're putting forth an awesome template of how to, slay, be dope, be an activist, and everything that you are, while still being an amazing mom and wife. And I just want to say you're doing a good job. Like, you're doing a good job.
Thank you. You want to make me cry. That's what you wanted.
I'm not done yet.
Okay.
And just like even preparing for this episode, like I had no shortage of questions to ask, because, you're talented, you're multifaceted. And I think you're putting forth a powerful example to young females that, you can do all these things and not in only your community, but wherever you go. And like, you can be an awesome mom and a great professional and, be ratchet and righteous and all these kind of things. So I think
I am
that's so
not
cool.
ratchet. Okay. Just putting it out there. Yeah.
And lastly, your genuine heart for people and humanity. I think we get caught up in this, every individual for themselves, hustle type doctrine, being preached by some people, but I see that you give in a way that's not always self-serving, but in a way that builds capacity. So I think that's pretty much it, but I just wanted to thank you so much for being on this show and blessing us with your presence. And definitely, I do believe that everything that you said today is going to make an impact on people. So Crystal, thanks for being you.
Thank you. You honor me. Thank you so much.